I'll never forget the moment I got the call. It was late in the evening, and I saw Daniel's name pop up on my phone. I answered, thinking something might have been wrong, maybe an emergency. What I heard on the other end still gives me chills. Daniel was yelling, his voice cracking. Ben, you need to come home. Mom's with some guy. I caught her. She's trying to take my phone. Subject, my stepson told me about my wife's affair. Hello, true story. My name is Ben, and this is actually my first time writing into anything like this. I've been a long time lurker on YouTube, but never really one to comment or share much of my personal life online. But life has a funny way of humbling you. The way I even found your channel is kind of ironic. After my divorce, I was scrolling through YouTube, just trying to find something to distract me, something to take my mind off the constant loop of memories, questions, and bitterness that kept me up at night. You know how the algorithm works. Once you watch one video about infidelity or relationship advice, it starts throwing all sorts of similar content at you. That's how I stumbled on your channel. The very first video YouTube recommended me was the one about the wife who was caught sleeping with another man by her own son, and how he told the husband. That hit me like a ton of bricks, because my own story is almost a mirror image of that, but with a slight twist. In my case, it wasn't my biological son, it was my stepson. And honestly, without him, I would have never known the truth. I would have still been living blind, being made a fool of, while the woman I thought was my partner in life was out using her PTO days to cheat behind my back. So I figured I'd sit down and share my story. Not only because maybe someone out there can relate, but also because I think my stepson deserves credit. He was 15 years old at the time, and he showed more honesty and courage than his own mother ever did. Let me start from the beginning. I met Maria in 2016. At the time, I wasn't looking for anything serious. I had gone through my fair share of dating ups and downs, and my focus was mostly on my career and hobbies. But that summer, I agreed to help coach a little league baseball team. I played ball all through high school, and I always thought it would be fun to give back and coach kids. That's where I first crossed paths with her son, Daniel. He was 10 at the time. Daniel was a good kid, not the best player on the team, but he had heart. What stood out most about him was how polite he was. He listened, worked hard, and never complained. I got along with him right away. After a few weeks into the season, I started noticing his mom, Maria, coming around to the practices and games. She was one of the moms who didn't just sit on the bleachers scrolling on her phone. She actually paid attention. She cheered, she encouraged. She even volunteered to bring snacks for the team sometimes. One day after practice, Daniel was lagging behind, and Maria came over to thank me. She said something like, "I'm really glad you're his coach. He's been more excited about baseball this year than ever before, and he talks about you nonstop." That was the first time I really looked at her in that way. She had this smile, and I could tell she was genuine. I didn't think much of it then, but a few weeks later, she asked if I wanted to grab coffee sometime, just to thank me for everything I was doing for her son. I agreed, not expecting anything, but that coffee date turned into dinner, and by the end of the night, she admitted she was glad she met me. She told me Daniel adored me, and that she hadn't seen him look up to a man like that in a long time. That hit me hard, because I knew Daniel's biological father wasn't in the picture much. From that moment, things kind of took off. The early days of my relationship with Maria were honestly great. We took things slow at first because I didn't want to be that guy who just swoops in and disrupts a kid's life. But Daniel warmed up to me quickly, and it just felt natural. I wasn't just dating Maria, I was building a bond with her son too. By 2018, we got married. I still remember that day vividly. Daniel was 12 at the time, and he was so excited to be a part of it. He even made a little speech at the reception about how happy he was that I was officially part of the family. That melted my heart. For me, Marrying Maria wasn't just about her. It was about committing to both of them. The first couple of years were smooth sailing. We had our routines. We had fun. We went on family trips. I had no reason to ever doubt her. I trusted Maria completely. She was a bit more social than me, but I figured that was just her personality. I'm more laid back, and she liked to go out with her girlfriends sometimes. It never bothered me. Looking back, I realized I was blind to the signs. Maria started using her PTO days more often, claiming she just needed a break or wanted to have a mental health day. I didn't question it because, hey, we all need that sometimes. She'd tell me she was running errands, going shopping, or just relaxing at home. I didn't pry. One weekend, I had planned a trip with some of my buddies. We don't get to see each other much anymore, so we try to do one trip a year to just hang out, fish, play cards, that kind of thing. I told Maria about it months in advance, and she was totally fine with it. She even encouraged me to go. I thought nothing of it. Little did I know, while I was out with my friends, she was back home getting her back blown out by some other guy. I'll never forget the moment I got the call. It was late in the evening, and I saw Daniel's name pop up on my phone. I answered, thinking something might have been wrong, maybe an emergency. What I heard on the other end still gives me chills. Daniel was yelling, his voice cracking. "Ben, you need to come home. Mom's with some guy. I caught her. She's trying to take my phone." I could hear chaos in the background, his mom screaming at him to hang up. Then he said, "I took pictures. I'm sending them to you before she deletes them." My heart dropped into my stomach. I didn't even know what to say. A 15-year-old kid should not have to go through that, but at the same time, I was grateful. He didn't hesitate. He told me the truth, even though he knew it would blow his family apart. Within a few minutes, the pictures started coming through. Sure enough, there was Maria in our home, with some guy I'd never seen before. I can't describe the feeling. Anger, betrayal, sadness, it all hit at once. But there was also this weird sense of clarity. I knew right then that everything I thought I had with Maria was a lie. And I also knew that the only reason I found out was because Daniel loved me enough to tell me the truth. That night I couldn't sleep. I was sitting in a cabin with my friends, staring at my phone, looking at the pictures Daniel had sent. They were undeniable, proof right there in front of me. My buddies noticed something was wrong, and when I told them, they were just as shocked as I was. One of them even said, "Man, if your stepson hadn't told you, you'd never know." And he was right. I spent the rest of the trip in a daze. I didn't want to blow up at her over the phone. I decided I'd wait until I got home to confront her face to face. I owed it to myself and to Daniel to handle it directly. But in the meantime, I made sure to call Daniel again. I told him how proud I was of him for telling me, and that he did the right thing no matter what his mom said. He was shaken up, scared that everything was going to explode. But I reassured him that none of it was his fault. That was important to me. After Daniel called me and sent the pictures, I had a decision to make. I was still out of town on that fishing trip with my buddies. They all told me the same thing. "You gotta go home, man." But part of me knew there was no point in rushing. The damage was already done. She'd already crossed that line. Whether I drove back that night or waited until the weekend was over, the outcome was going to be the same. I wasn't going to stay married to her. But that didn't mean I wasn't boiling inside. I spent the last 2 days of that trip pacing, barely sleeping, and replaying everything in my head. I kept looking at those pictures Daniel sent me, thinking, how could she do this in our own home while her son was there? When I finally drove back home, I walked in with a pit in my stomach. Maria was in the kitchen, acting like everything was normal. She smiled when I came in, but I could see this flicker of nervousness in her eyes. She knew, and I knew. I didn't waste time with small talk. I walked in, set my bags down, pulled my phone out, and laid it on the counter in front of her. I opened up the pictures Daniel had sent me and said, "Want to explain this?" Her face drained of color. She stammered something like, "That's not what it looks like," but I cut her off. "Don't insult me, Maria. Your son was there. He saw everything. He called me. He was crying, and he took these pictures because you tried to take his phone. So don't you dare stand here and tell me it's not what it looks like." She froze. Then she started crying. At first, it was that fake kind of crying, the kind where you don't see any tears, just sniffles and whimpers meant to buy sympathy. But when she realized I wasn't budging, she shifted into defense mode. She started yelling, saying things like, "Why were you gone? You're always with your friends. You don't give me attention anymore." I just stood there shaking my head. "So that's your excuse? That's why you had some man in our bed while your son was home? Because I went fishing for a weekend." She had no answer for that. The thing that really stuck with me was when she said, "Daniel shouldn't have called you. He's just a kid. He doesn't understand." That's when I lost it. Don't you dare blame him. He's the only one in this house who had the guts to tell the truth. He did what you couldn't do. He was honest. You should be proud of him, not mad at him. Her silence after that told me everything I needed to know. For the next week, we barely spoke. I slept in the guest room. She tried once or twice to start conversations, to apologize in half-hearted ways, but I wasn't interested. I told her straight up, "There's no coming back from this. We're done." She cried, begged, said it was a mistake. She said it only happened a couple of times, that it didn't mean anything. But I knew better. Affairs are never just a mistake. Mistakes are leaving the milk out overnight or forgetting to pay a bill. Sneaking another man into our house, using PTO days to meet up with him, lying to my face for who knows how long, that's not a mistake. That's a decision. I started sleeping with my phone under my pillow because I didn't trust her not to snoop through it or delete the evidence Daniel had sent me. She noticed and she accused me of acting paranoid. I told her straight, I wouldn't have to be paranoid if you hadn't been cheating on me. I filed for divorce almost immediately. There was no reason to drag it out. My lawyer told me that with clear evidence of infidelity, things would likely go in my favor. I didn't want to fight over property or money more than necessary. I just wanted out. Maria's reaction to the divorce filing was all over the place. One day, she'd beg me to reconsider, promising she'd cut off the other man and go to counseling. The next day, she'd turn cold and accuse me of giving up too easily. It was like watching a pendulum swing back and forth between guilt and anger. The divorce process itself was draining. Lawyers, paperwork, hearings. It felt like death by 1,000 cuts. But the hardest part wasn't the legal side. It was watching the effect it had on Daniel. Daniel was caught in the middle, but he made his stance clear from the beginning. He told me flat out, "I don't want to live with her." That broke my heart. He was only 15, and he was already feeling like he had to choose between his parents. His biological father, surprisingly, stepped up during this time. He agreed to take Daniel in full time, and Daniel seemed okay with that. Mostly because he couldn't stand being around Maria anymore. I remember one night, he came over to my place after everything had been filed. We sat in the living room, and he just broke down crying. He said, "Ben, I don't understand how she could do that. She ruined everything. I don't even want to talk to her anymore." I hugged him and told him, "Listen, none of this is your fault. You did the right thing by telling me. You're stronger than most adults I know. Don't let her actions define how you see yourself." We sat there for a long time. I think in that moment we both realized our bond wasn't going anywhere. Blood doesn't always make family. Love and loyalty do. Of course, once word of the divorce got out, the whispers started. Some of Maria's family tried to paint me as the bad guy. They said I should have forgiven her, that all marriages go through rough patches, that I was throwing everything away over one mistake. I didn't hold back. I told them, She wasn't just unfaithful. She brought another man into our home. She did it while her son was there. And if it weren't for him, I'd still be in the dark. If you think that's just a mistake, then you need to rethink your definition of marriage. Some of her friends tried reaching out too, but I cut them off. Anyone who sided with her wasn't someone I wanted in my life. The day the divorce was finalized was bittersweet. On one hand, I felt free. I felt like a weight had been lifted off my shoulders, but on the other hand, I couldn't help but feel grief for the life I thought I had, for the future I thought I was building. Maria sat across from me at that final meeting, looking like a shell of herself. She didn't say much, and I didn't either. When it was done, I walked out and never looked back. It's been over a year since then, and I can honestly say I'm in a better place now. It took time, but I've started rebuilding my life. I focused on my work, my health, and my friendships. I even picked baseball coaching back up. It helps me feel grounded. And as for Daniel, he and I still talk regularly. He comes over sometimes on weekends and we'll catch a game or just hang out. He'll always be family to me, no matter what. Maria, on the other hand, tried reaching out a few times after the divorce. He sent me a few messages trying to catch up or see how I was doing. I ignored them. The way I see it, once trust is gone, there's no point in looking back. I thought it would be helpful to share some of those texts here, not just for the drama of it, but because they show how deep betrayal runs and how far cheaters will go to avoid accountability. The first text I got came only a couple of days after Maria moved out of the house. It was from her sister, Amanda. Now, Amanda and I never got along much, even when Maria and I were married. She always had this air of superiority, always sticking her nose in our business. Here's the text she sent me, Amanda. I can't believe you're doing this to my sister. She made a mistake, Ben. One mistake. You don't just throw away a marriage over that. You're supposed to work through things. That's what a real man does. I stared at that text for a long time. A mistake. Bringing another man into my house while her son was home wasn't a mistake. It was deliberate, it was repeated, and it was unforgivable. I didn't even reply to Amanda. I figured silence was the best response. But then, the next day, another one came. This time from Maria herself. Maria, I know you're angry, but can we please talk? I don't want things to end like this. Daniel needs us both. That one almost made me laugh. Daniel was the one who exposed her. He didn't need us both. He needed stability, and she wasn't providing it. I didn't respond. In the middle of all this, Daniel and I were still texting. His messages broke my heart, but also gave me strength. Here are a couple of examples. Daniel, she's telling everyone you're the bad guy. Don't listen to her. I know the truth. I saw what I saw. I'll never forget it. Daniel, Dad says I can stay with him full time. I'm good with that, but I still want to come see you whenever I can. You're more of a dad to me than he ever was. That second one brought me to tears. For a 15-year-old kid to have that level of awareness and loyalty, I can't even put into words how much that meant to me. Not long after, I started noticing that some mutual friends were distancing themselves. People I used to grab beers with or invite to cookouts suddenly stopped answering my calls. Then, out of nowhere, I got a message from a mutual friend named Chris. Chris, man, I don't know what really went down between you and Maria, but she's telling people you were controlling and mean to her. I'm not saying I believe it, but people are talking. I replied to him, me. Chris, you've known me for years. Did you ever see me raise my voice at her? Did you ever see me control her? The only thing I did wrong was trust her too much. Daniel caught her cheating. He took pictures. That's what really happened. Chris didn't reply for a couple of days. Then he finally texted, Chris, damn, man, I didn't know. I'm sorry. You know how it is. People talk. I should have asked you first. At least he came around. Others didn't. Some just silently chose sides, and I was okay with that. If someone could believe Maria's lies over my integrity, they were never really my friend to begin with. The worst came from Maria's mother. She sent me a long, scathing message that I'll never forget. Mariah's mom. Ben, I thought you were a good man, but now I see you're nothing but a monster. You've abandoned my daughter when she needed you most. Everyone makes mistakes, but you've chosen to punish her instead of love her. You're cruel, cold, and heartless. I don't know how you can live with yourself. A monster. That word stuck with me. For weeks afterward, I kept replaying it in my head. At first, I questioned myself. Was I too harsh? Should I have given her a second chance? But every time I started to waver, I remembered Daniel's voice on the phone that night, panicked and crying, yelling, "Ben, she's with some guy." That was all the reminder I needed. During this time, Daniel kept me updated on how things were at his mom's house whenever he had to visit. His text painted a picture of someone spiraling. Daniel. She keeps saying you ruined her life. She doesn't even admit what she did. She acts like you're the reason everything fell apart. Daniel. She tried to take my phone again. She doesn't want me talking to you, but I'll never stop. You're the only one who actually cares about me. One night, Daniel called me in tears. He said Maria had been yelling at him, blaming him for betraying her, and saying he should have never called me that night. That enraged me. How could a mother put that kind of guilt on her own son? I told him, Daniel, don't ever blame yourself. You did the right thing. You were brave. None of this is on you. It's on her. Like I mentioned earlier, I even started getting texts from numbers I didn't recognize. Old acquaintances, people I hadn't spoken to in years. One text said, unknown. Wow, man, I heard you left Maria high and dry. Not cool. Thought you were better than that. I didn't even bother responding. By then, I'd learned that trying to defend myself to people who only knew half the story was a waste of time. The truth has a way of coming out eventually, and I was willing to wait. There were a few times, though, where I did respond. One message came from Maria herself after weeks of silence. Maria, do you ever think about what we had? About how good it was before? We could fix this if you just try. I replied, me. Maria, what we had is gone. You destroyed it. I could forgive a lot of things, but not this. Not bringing another man into our house. Not making your son the messenger. Don't contact me again unless it's about Daniel. That shut things down pretty quickly. Looking back at all those texts, I see a clear pattern. Maria and her family wanted to make me the villain because it was easier than admitting the truth. If I was the monster, then Maria didn't have to face the fact that she betrayed not just me, but her own son too. And honestly, I get it now. People will twist reality to protect their own ego, but the truth doesn't change just because you refuse to accept it. The silver lining through all of this has been Daniel. He and I still talk almost every day. He sends me updates about school, baseball, and life with his dad. He still calls me coach sometimes, which makes me smile. I'll always see him as my son, no matter what blood says. He's told me more than once, Ben, I'm glad you didn't stay with her. I would have lost respect for you if you did. Coming from a teenager, that hit me harder than anything else. It showed me that even in the middle of chaos, kids can see the truth more clearly than adults sometimes. Since the divorce was finalized, life has been calmer in some ways, but also lonelier in others. The peace came from no longer dealing with Maria's lies, manipulation, and the constant mental back and forth of, is she telling the truth or not? That noise was gone. The loneliness came from realizing that a chunk of my life, 7 years, was basically built on quicksand. When you divorce, people don't tell you about the nights that feel empty, not just because you're single, but because you invested so much into someone who didn't value it. I'd catch myself reaching for the other side of the bed, remembering how Maria used to sleep curled up. Or I'd find myself wanting to call her when something funny happened during the day, only to stop and remind myself, she's not your person anymore. She never really was. But then I'd remember my stepson. That boy is my saving grace. He calls me regularly. Sometimes he FaceTimes me after his baseball practice and says, "Coach Ben, I hit one over the fence." I still call him kiddo, and he still calls me coach, half the time instead of Ben or stepdad. That bond means more to me than the failed marriage ever did. Here's the part where I get brutally honest. I'm never getting married again, ever. Before Maria, I was a guy who believed in love, who believed that if you worked hard, provided, and cared for your woman, she would naturally respect and honor you. My parents were married for decades, and while they weren't perfect, they showed me what I thought was the blueprint. But in today's world, that blueprint doesn't hold up. Marriage used to be about two people coming together, working as a team, and respecting each other's roles. Now, marriage has become a lopsided contract where men are signing up for risk without protection. If she cheats, if she falls out of love, if she gets bored, you pay. She can take the house, half your income, even kids that might not even be biologically yours, and the courts will side with her more often than not. I've watched too many stories on your channel where guys lose everything, and I count myself lucky that I didn't lose more than I did. Maria wanted alimony. She wanted to take me for what I had, but she got exposed. If it weren't for my stepson, I might have been financially drained. That boy literally saved me. So yeah, marriage is off the table for me. I'll date, maybe. I'll have companionship if the right woman comes along, but legally binding myself to another person again? Not a chance. This is going to be controversial, but I've got to say it. I agree with most men who warn against marrying single mothers. Now, let me be clear. Being a single mom in itself isn't evil. There are plenty of women who raise their kids with love, who are honest, and who don't play games. But from a man's perspective, marrying a single mom is one of the riskiest things you can do. I lived it. I gave my heart, my time, my money, and my mentorship to a kid who wasn't even biologically mine. And what did I get in return? A wife who used her PTO days to sneak around and cheat with another man. The truth is, when you marry a single mom, you're stepping into another man's legacy. That child will always have another father, whether he's involved or not. You're pouring into someone else's seed, and often the gratitude doesn't come back the way you'd expect. My stepson respects me, loves me, and I wouldn't change my role in his life. But Maria, she didn't respect me. She took advantage of my love for her son to secure loyalty from me, while she herself wasn't loyal. The dynamic is unbalanced. A man gives, gives, and gives, and oftentimes the woman feels entitled to it rather than appreciative of it. And here's the kicker. Deep down, I don't think a single mom truly respects a man who steps in. She'll appreciate the help, sure. She'll talk about how amazing you are for being there. But respect? That's different. Maria once told me on our first date that her son adored me, that she was glad I came into their lives. She said all the right words to make me feel like a savior, but words are cheap. Years later, she threw it all away like it meant nothing. I've come to learn that respect is more important than love. A woman can say she loves you, but if she doesn't respect you, that love won't stop her from lying, cheating, or betraying you. Looking back, there were small cracks I ignored. Times when Maria would get defensive about her phone. Times when she said she needed a break from parenting and would vanish for a few hours on a girls' night. Times when she'd complain about money even though I was paying the bulk of the bills. At the time, I brushed it off. I trusted her. I thought, she loves me. She wouldn't do anything to hurt me. I was wrong. Respect would have kept her loyal even when she got bored, even when temptation showed up. But she didn't respect me enough to be faithful. So here I am, a few years later, older, wiser, and admittedly more jaded. I'm not bitter. I'm actually thankful. Thankful that the truth came out when it did. Thankful that my stepson was brave enough to tell me. Thankful that I didn't waste another decade of my life on someone who didn't value me. I have peace now. I have clarity, and I've made my peace with being single for life if that's how it goes. I've got hobbies, friends, my stepson, and my own goals. I don't need a wife to complete me. Do I get lonely sometimes? Of course, I'm human. But I'd rather deal with occasional loneliness than daily disrespect. To the men listening or reading this, take it from me. Don't marry just because you want companionship. Don't ignore red flags because you're scared of being alone. Don't step into a situation with a single mother thinking your sacrifices will automatically guarantee her loyalty. Protect yourself. As for me, I'll never walk down the aisle again. Marriage is supposed to be sacred, but in today's world, it's a gamble with terrible odds. I learned my lesson, and I'm moving forward. Till next time, Ben.